Hello and welcome to Football 301. I'm your host, Nate Tice. Great show for you today. We're going to look at those openings around the league, the head coach openings, because there's 8 of them in the NFL right now. And if you can do a little math, 8 divided by 32, that's 1 out of 4. A quarter of the league has openings right now. And let's talk about it today. We're going to talk about what are the appealing aspects of each of these openings, and also maybe who might be the best fit. It's not a super juicy pool of candidates, but we'll talk about that. We, in this instance, for 3 days in a row, my guy, Mr. Matt Harmon. Did you get a fresh cut this morning? Because it's great to see you.
Yes.
Oh, great to see you, Matt, with the fresh cut. You lowered your ears a little bit.
Thank you. It feels good. I am an idiot for a variety of different reasons, but I'm very loyal to my barber here. She's great. She's fantastic. She was actually out all last week, which I swore I was going to remember. I was not going to forget that she was going to be out last week, and she reminded me multiple times, and of course, I forgot. So all last week, I was well overdue for a haircut. I rarely go hat on the shows anymore. I was hat last night for the Texans beatdown of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So no, it feels good. I did some of my favorite activities. You know, my usual morning routine here. I also got the haircut and put together a nice spreadsheet for our show here today, so I could be organized. So I'm very, very excited. Color codes and all kinds of things.
You love a good spreadsheet. You whenever I've done the fantasy show with you, you're always like, hey, I shared a little spreadsheet in here. Like, if you want to look at it or not, I look, and it's just like some beautiful mind. You don't have to look, but it's there.
I don't have to.
And as someone whose notes are very, I've had to share them a couple times over the years with producers where I don't edit my notes so they look pretty. And then people look at them, they're probably just like, oh my God, this guy he has to get checked out. Like, this brain needs to be looked at because this is how a normal brain thinks. But you mentioned we got together and recapped that Texans beatdown of the Steelers. If anyone wants to listen to that show should be in your feeds or on YouTube. So make sure to check that out. And one stat to add on, since 2013, which is the furthest I can look back for some of these stats on True Media, that was the worst performance in terms of success rate and EPA per dropback ever by an NFL quarterback in a playoff game with 20 or more pass attempts. That quarterback was Aaron Rodgers, not the guy that had 5 fumbles and CJ Stroud in the red zone. No. Aaron Rodgers had the worst performance. I'm trying to look up how many it was. It was over 200 quarterbacks since that and over that time period. I found the stat after we recorded 283 games, playoff games, where a quarterback threw 20 or more pass attempts. Aaron Rodgers ranked 283rd. And the EPA per dropback and success rate. 21% success rate. That is the worst run game in the league this year, I think, was the Raiders at like 29 or 30%, which is atrocious. So worse than the Raiders run game was that passing game. And DK Metcalf was playing. So, if you want to listen to some Steelers talk, listen to that one. Today, we're going to talk about the head coaching carousel. I don't know if the Steelers are included in that. We have a question mark next to that, but that's not one of the teams of these 8 teams so far. We'll start, though, in the AFC North. We'll start with the team, the rival of the Steelers, of this, like the new black and blue division, I guess you could put it. After a long time, almost 2 decades, John Harbaugh was fired. When you look at this Ravens franchise, Matt, what's the selling point if you're a free agent head coach and you're taking these interviews? You're like Jesse Minter, who's taken 8 interviews this week. He's interviewing with all 8 spots, which I agree with, by the way. I think he's kind of might be my favorite non-retread candidate. I'm including Harbaugh. I actually think Stefanski might be the guy I would go for if I were one of these teams rather than Harbaugh. At least he calls plays. But I like Stefanski, Harbaugh, and I don't know. I'm really interested in Minter. But if you were one of these candidates looking at these teams or looking at the Ravens, what would be the biggest selling point? I think I know what it is.
Yeah, I think unlike the Steelers, which I do think they're sort of analogous situations because Tomlin was hired in 2007 and Harbaugh was hired in 2008, prime middle of my high school and middle end of my high school career. So it's been a minute since these guys have been in these posts. So I think they're kind of analogous situations because of that. But unlike the Steelers, I think this team is still, you can sell we are ready to win right now. We have Lamar Jackson, which obviously I do think is the biggest selling point. So if I am a coach like Kevin Stefanski, who you mentioned, I would be really interested in this job. That's to me, that's maybe the direction I'd want to go to, is I'd want to get like a consistent play caller in here, because you've done the Greg Roman thing, you've done the Todd Monken thing, and that relationship apparently, I actually kind of liked Monken's comments about it, how he feels like, yeah, I always like a self-aware person who says like, I could have done better in that, as opposed to just always defending myself or whatever. And I think that makes a lot of sense. So getting someone like that in here would be appealing to me, but that's the number one appeal to this job here, is that you do have a veteran quarterback who should still be in the prime of his career. Now, if I gave you, like, to be completely honest here, Nate, and I'd be curious as to what the candidates feel about this. How long do you feel like that window is with Lamar, though, of him being like top 5 quarterback in the NFL? And the fact that he's had these injuries consistently, does that need to come into play here too? And really kind of what I mean by that is, are we getting to a point where we might need to transition, not like remove Lamar as the starting quarterback at all, but more so think like, okay, we can't count on him to be the sun where everything rotates around. We need to maybe make this ecosystem around him a little bit stronger, though.
I actually did look this up. Again, Lamar Jackson, former 2-time MVP. He just turned 29 this month. Okay. And Lamar as a thrower still can work from the pocket, but he does use his athleticism to extend things, kind of micro ad-libbing. He just extends a play maybe a quarter second and pops it open. So it's not exactly how I teach a quarterback how to do it, but there is stuff where he's in structure, and that does age well. And his arm is going to age well. He throws over the middle. No one throws deeper dig routes than Lamar. It's like him and Stafford. So that aspect of his game is going to age well. But you saw this year with battling all these injuries. There's numbers that looked at this, that he was running the lowest rate he ever has, whether design runs or scrambles. I still thought he was very effective, at least in the first month of the season. And I thought the injuries affected his throwing in the second half of the season when he was trying to play through those injuries. I look at former quarterbacks that have kind of used maybe athleticism to be a part of their damage, or to create a lot of their damage, how they win. That's always something how I look at prospects when I rank these guys. That's what I look like, how they win. To me, there's some parts of his throwing that will age well, but guys usually drop off just after 30, 32, 33. So if you're saying like Russell Wilson, he got traded to Denver when he was 34, and you could tell he was a shadow of his former self in that year. And the year before, there's even some aspects that weren't aging that well. So I would say 32 was his last good year. Russ and Lamar are not exactly alike as players. Russ uses, I actually think, his athleticism even more because of how much ad-libbing and extending he did to like launch those launch things vertically as he's creating back and forth. I think Lamar kind of gets, his running style is different. All these guys run differently. Like Lamar isn't a guy that runs back and forth. It's more make one guy miss and go, or make one guy miss and then throw, or beat a guy to the edge and throw. It's not like run back and forth. Russ was always running back and forth. And so short answer to a long-winded thing, I think you got a 3-year window. That's where my safe bet would be. So 29 this season, 30 next season after that, 31 after that. So after that, I would start going like, all right, how is he playing? But I do think that you are very safe in getting 2 years and then 3 years. And then after that, and if I were a coach, that's great. The NFL is not for long. Like it stands for not for long for a lot of reasons. Talk about a player, talk about a window, talk about just any aspect, talk about any predictions of stuff, long-term stuff. So for me, I think that's what makes it juicy. You have a former MVP. Not many other spots have that going for them. A lot of these notes that I have for these teams, like what's the appealing aspect? No quarterback. Like the Falcons, which we'll talk about, it's like maybe a quarterback. I don't know. And then like the Titans have the former number 1 pick in Cam Ward. So like that is, when you're looking at openings, that's the number one thing these coaches look at. Do you have a quarterback? Even the rumors about Harbaugh have been, some of the reporting about Harbaugh. Oh, he's going at home watching Cam Ward and Jackson Dart to help determine this decision. Do I have a quarterback? Because they do so much. And so I think you can get 2 more years of Lamar as a locked in top 5 guy. And then I think after that is when it's like, okay, maybe he ages to more being a top 12 guy, which is still good. Maybe more of a tier 2 guy in my brain. And then it kind of ages from there. Russ went from like a tier 2 guy that fell off to a tier 3, tier 4 guy. You're going to have that drop off at some point in your career. So it's like, I don't know, I'd maybe make him watch Stafford film and just be like, play like this, just like kind of like mitigate some of that. But other parts of this team though, Matt, like when you look at the Ravens, so like non-Lamar, which is a big part of this, is there any other selling points for the Ravens? Because when I look, they got a lot of free agents coming up, especially in the trenches. Their center's a free agent, Tyler Linderbaum. Falale, their guard, is a free agent. Isaiah Likely is a free agent. Draymond Jones' defense is a free agent. Like key rotational players or starters are free agents. They have a decent amount of cap space. They have a couple 5th-round comps, but they're picking number 14. But any other parts of this team that you're like, oh yeah, that could be a selling point for a candidate?
I think the selling points are less what is or is not on the roster and more just about that this organization has been, number one, they were patient with it sounds stupid to say patient with Harbaugh because he was successful consistently, but they kept him around for a long time. They're generally a well thought. Right, Billick was there for. They've only had 3 head coaches, and they haven't existed obviously as long as the Steelers have, the Baltimore Ravens. But they've only had 3 coaches in their entire franchise tenure. Billick was there for a long time. So I think if you have success, pretty strong success in this job, you're going to hang around to it. That's number one. And number two, it's a good front office that has a consistent structure there too. This is a team that I think you can parachute into here and feel pretty good that you're going to be around for the long term, and you are going to have a smart general manager and front office at your back kind of helping you build this thing. My only question as the candidate would be is like, how much influence am I going to be having over personnel? Because I do think there are some there. If you're nitpicking the Ravens, I think they've maybe been a little too hesitant to kind of trust their not overrate, but like really trust their homegrown talent to like consistently take step forwards. And sometimes I'd like to see them, go outside of the organization for players in their prime, as opposed to, all right, we're going to get somebody on the back end and we're going to get the best out of him, which they've done that successfully at times. But I'd like to see maybe more of those additions kind of players in their prime, which is certainly easier said than done.
Yeah, I just want to see him. It sounds so bad because they've drafted 1st-round receivers like constantly. But I just want to see him there's a couple of interesting free agent receivers. I think they could be, Alec Pierce for Lamar could be really cool. Mm-hmm. Might be, they have some cap space and they have to sign a lot of these guys. They're in the middle of the pack. Romeo Doubs could be cool. Some of those weapons and stuff. But I think some of the defensive creative, if you have a creative defensive coordinator, Jesse Minter, really could do some cool stuff with these DBs, Hamilton, Starks, and everything. That's an appeal to me. But I'll just cap off with who they've interviewed. And this is so weird to me. Like my brain still, this has been going on for like a decade, but my brain still can't always get this, like comprehend this. Like the Ravens website reporting who they've interviewed. I don't know why that feels weird to me. I don't know why.
How about they're putting out the graphics about it on social media?
The state media stuff. I know it's
you and I love our jobs, but like if we're ever interviewing for jobs in the future, could you imagine? Yahoo Sports puts out a graphic. We've interviewed Nate Tice for our lead analyst NFL job, something whatever. I don't even know. I don't know what your title is. I don't know what my title is either. Yeah, right. Lead bloviator in chief into a microphone. That's who we've interviewed. So yeah, it is still a little bizarre. I agree with you.
Yeah. So this is who they've confirmed interviewed: Cliff Kingsbury, Matt Nagy, Kevin Stefanski, Clint Kubiak, Davis Webb, who's the passing game coordinator for the Broncos. I think most of these guys are apparent. Clint Kubiak's offensive coordinator for the Seahawks. Vance Joseph, defense coordinator for the Broncos. Anthony Weaver, defense coordinator for the Dolphins, who I do like. I don't know as a head coach, but if I'm looking for a defense coordinator, I would be looking at him. And then they have scheduled interviews. It's funny. This is what I mean. The website from the Ravens has reportedly scheduled.
What does that even mean? Yeah.
Sorry. My brain is just like, how do the national reporters know more than the state media of the website? Sorry. But reportedly scheduled: Jim Schwartz, my defense coordinator for the Browns, Mike McDaniel, Jesse Minter, who I mentioned, defense coordinator for the Chargers, and Nate Scheelhaase. There's a lot of talk about him.
Scalise.
Yeah, I was going to say that doesn't sound right. People are raving about him. And anyone that the Rams and McVay kind of like goes like, yeah, I like this guy. I'm going to be interested in. So I get that. Cool first name too. Chris Shula, DC for the Rams, who I'm actually interested in as well. Joe Brady, Robert Saleh, and Brian Flores. Man, that's a lot of candidates. Any of those that pique your interest with this team that as kind of like maybe a perfect fit?
I do think Minter is interesting for almost any job. I think he's just a really sharp guy, really well regarded, and I would love to see what he could do with this defense. You mentioned Kyle Hamilton. I love Kyle Hamilton. I'm such a big fan. I almost don't know if, like, what am I more invested in as a neutral observer, seeing the right defensive mind with Kyle Hamilton or the right offensive mind with Lamar Jackson? I don't know. And some of these. Lamar's like a hard quarterback to figure out, not because of his limitations or anything, but he's like some of these teams we're going to talk about, like, oh, well, they have, this in place personnel wise. I think that would fit really well in a Kubiak offense, or Cliff Kingsbury. I think is Cliff's tough. Like, this isn't a team I want to see Cliff tough, with. This is not a team. This isn't a team I want to see Cliff with. Maybe Joe Brady, because I think he's done some cool stuff from a quarterback mobility standpoint. And obviously, I kind of like some of the run game stuff that they would do with Derrick Henry, probably on a 1-year basis. But yeah, I think to me, Minter's the guy who stands out here. Saleh too. I think when I'm I don't know if I don't think they've talked to him or expressed interest in interviewing him, but he's a guy that I would be interested in talking to with this job.
Reportedly scheduled, according to the Ravens website. Nice. I think because this sounds stupid, but this is kind of my line of thinking. Maybe because none of those offensive guys, I'm like I like Stefanski. I think he can make Lamar work, but I don't think that's ideal pairing, if that makes sense. Like, I like Stefanski with a few other teams in the quarterback pairings. Not that I don't think he's creative or anything, but I don't know. And I think Lamar can run more traditional offense stuff. Like, half the offense with Todd Monken was under center, I formation. Like, he does the traditional stuff. It's just that you want that kind of flair for the creative with him, just to open things up. But then again, talking out both sides of my mouth, but these teams have to figure out, well, he's running less. So do we want a coach that uses their quarterback a ton? Because now he's kind of getting away from that just a little bit. Like, that's the kind of thing. But having said all that, don't roll the offensive pairings. I would go defense. I think Jesse Minter, and I know Harbaugh's not there anymore. He has background with that from the Michigan days, all that kind of stuff. And I think, wasn't he an assistant? Yes, he was a defensive assistant and a DB's coach for 4 years. So that would have been under Wink, I believe, was the defense coordinator there. So
it's a very incestuous
that one to me.
Here. Michigan Chargers, Ravens, pipeline. It's very incestuous.
It really is. I know. It's pretty funny, actually. But no, that's the one by kind of like default that I would kind of lean towards. All right. We got breaking news as we moved on to our next team, but the Chargers have fired.
Incestuous Ravens Chargers.
Yes, I know. This is actually a great transition. The Chargers have fired former Ravens offensive coordinator and former Stanford and former 49ers, all Harbaugh stops. Offense coordinator Greg Roman fired from the Chargers. My one-liner on this is, that should be expected. And I think Harbaugh made that apparent after the game too, when he was like, I don't know. And that's not how Jim does things. He usually has some thoughtfulness with that kind of stuff. So Greg Roman fired, I think I don't mean to say this in a mean way, but deservedly. I think there's a lack of creativity. I think the Patriots absolutely teed off on Roman, which that's just happened to his offenses in the playoffs multiple times now. But any thoughts on this and any potential names that maybe you come to mind? We got to look at Michigan and former Ravens offensive coordinators. Here comes Todd Monken, somebody that has some connection with these guys.
Dude, I almost thought about this when we were talking about Minter. The only thing I would maybe have a hesitation about Minter with the Ravens is maybe get a new phone book, open up a new section of your contacts. And I would say maybe that's a good idea here for the Chargers. But no, my thought about this was when we did the recap, I thought like, we can talk about Roman, getting out of here, but I really didn't think it was going to happen because I hadn't seen that quote from Jim Harbaugh yet until I woke up the next morning after we got off the show at 1 a.m. or whatever. And I was like, ooh, that's because I brought this up when we were talking to you a couple of days ago about it. Like, Harbaugh and Roman go way back. I brought up that little RV segment that they did when Harbaugh and Roman got hired, which I actually linked in the article that I wrote. And I went, because I'm a loser, I went and rewatched the whole thing. They're like reminiscing about the old days, swapping stories about their RVs and their, shared offensive DNA, cheersing sprites, to get in this new opportunity together. I'm like, yeah, these guys are boys. Like, there's no way this is not gonna happen. And sure enough, it has happened. And to me, I think what Harbaugh realizes, and let's be clear, I do think that Herbert did not play well in that game. We briefly hinted at that yesterday when talking about the Steelers. God, we've talked so much the last 3 days, Nate. I'm losing track.
I know.
Hinted at that.
I actually was thinking the same thing. I was like, that was last night?
That was last night. We briefly hinted that I think on review, there was more available for Herbert, that he probably could have taken, even though they 100% did get out coached. With that being said, I think what Harbaugh realizes, though, is that, yes, he has this affection and attachment to Greg Roman and some of their shared offensive DNA and their shared philosophies. I think he realizes, though, Herbert, that his affection and affinity for Herbert tops his history with Greg Roman. I think that's what we've realized here. I think that is the correct realization. They also fired their offensive line coach too. So I'm very fascinated to see which direction they go here, because I think that Roman, this is the deal with him. He's not terrible. He's not offensive as an offensive coordinator, but he can get you to a certain point. You need somebody else to get you to the next point. I think he's done a good job with Herbert, getting him to run more and getting him to push the ball down the field. Now I'd like to see, someone kind of just, again, give him some more quicker options. Ladd McConkey talked about this in a locker room interview where he felt they were missed opportunities to use him in ways to get him the football quickly in his hands. That's the type of stuff I'd like to see from the next coach.
I think I think you did it great. Like, he can do kind of it's hard for me because a lot of what they do, I understand. I even said this Sunday night. It's like, I understand what they're trying to accomplish. It's just that it's 2026 now, and there's new kind of tweaks on this. Like, teams, I mean, you watch an old Shanahan offense from, I'm talking about his dad, Mike, and then watch now, they're running the same stuff, but then it just looks wildly different because of the motions, because of how they shift. It used to just be to line up. You might have one cross-field motion just to see man or zone, and then it just snap, and there's outside zone again. Now it's shift, speed motion, fake speed motion again, and then there's a guy kicking another guy out, but they're running the exact same outside zone concept, just with so many different tweaks. I watch the Chargers trying to, and I've made jokes about this. I've said it's very traditional in the sense of how they view football, the tropes of football. And there is some aspects of that there are truths to being traditional, and I'm more of a traditionalist in some ways how I look at the game. But when you're in the red zone, you're in the low red zone, and then you just get into, we're going to go heavy personnel and we're going to pound the rock because that's what we did at Stanford, and that's our philosophy because we run the effing ball. And then it's just you got to, KYP, know your personnel. The new way to do it is not to get into heavy. It's to spread them out and to run the ball, because defenses just tee off on you. Defenses got so much better in goal line. Even in my kind of football awakening, I would say, since I've really kind of got a handle on this stuff, maybe at end of high school into college. So since 2007-ish, goal line defenses have changed a little bit, just how aggressive they are. There's some similarities, don't get me wrong, but the way to kind of fix that is to get into lighter personnel and then do different things out of that. So it's just a lot of frustrations I have where they just can't. They have some we do have some tweaks with our counter runs. We have some tweaks with this. It's just not enough, especially when they get into have to pass situations. It becomes very just very basic. There's not motion there. The Patriots were teeing off on the center's head bob, which is that was an indicative to me of how predictable they were, that they just were able to know when they were about to snap the ball every single time. And that just kind of is a microcosm of Roman. So I think Herbert could succeed in a lot of offenses. Oh my God, hire Mike McDaniel. That would be cool. Don't think they would. Harbaugh and McDaniel would be one of the funniest kind of pairings ever. But I agree with you that this team could really maybe get outside of their, comfort zone and really just bring in some new ideas, because that's the thing too. Sorry, I know it's just Roman, but it's all the assistants are all Harbaugh guys too. So this is some issues these staffs get. This is what Andy Reid's going through with the Chiefs, is that they just have so many of the same guys. No idea, new ideas are getting into there. So yeah. All right, let's move on to a team that also in the AFC West. And honestly, they actually have a little bit more of appeal because of how bad and how much of an open slate they are. That's the Raiders, who went 3-14, fired Pete Carroll after a terrible season. I mean, objectively terrible season. We had several articles come out about how dysfunctional it all was, mixed messaging. You got Spytech, the GM, meeting with players about scheme stuff, which is like, all right, if you want to meet with players and talk scheme, why don't you coach? You know, you don't get to do both. Like you don't let the coaches pick players, and then like you can't be a personnel guy. And Allison, this is what freaking would tick me off about Trent Baalke. It's like you try to coach players at practice, and I'm like, dude, then coach. Just be a coach then. Like if you want to do that, be a coach. Sorry, but they got $98 million in cap space. They're third. They got the number 1 pick, Fernando Mendoza, 2 extra 4th rounders. If you're comfortable with Tom Brady having a hand in anything and Spytech meeting with the players, there's a lot of open stuff here. But to you, Matt, what's kind of the appeal, the biggest selling point of being the Raiders head coach?
Yeah, you said it. Blank slate is how I feel about this team right now. You're going to get you got the number 1 pick. You're going to take a quarterback there. You've got some. I would almost pitch this if I'm Spytech. I'd be saying, hey, you're going to get 2 draft classes here, because not only are you going to get to draft, we're going to draft some players for you this year. You basically got a whole class of guys last year that the coaching staff either just completely ignored, didn't use, or didn't get the best out of. So you're about to get basically 2 draft classes here. Well, it's partly about Jack Besh, but it's also about some of the offensive linemen that they really never gave a chance to.
Yeah.
We could also say that they did not get the best out of Ashton Genty. That's kind of the other part there, is that they certainly, which, listen, maybe you don't take a running back 6th overall when you're not ready to be a good team. In fact, you were the worst team in the NFL. You're picking first in the NFL draft. So yeah, I think that's would be sort of my selling point here, is that, and you know, this is how teams work, like especially a general manager who gets to keep their job, who I don't think is going to have what happened to Mike Vrabel or with the Patriots last year, where Elliott Wolf in his combine pressers was saying, hey, we had some guys on the roster that, you know, we just didn't get used last year. And then Mike Vrabel gets in there and says, okay, thanks, that's cute. I'm going to get my own players. I don't think you'll get a coach to that degree.
Trade.
Don't care. I don't think you'll get a head coach like that, because the arranged marriage with Pete Carroll was so poor and it just didn't make any sense. I actually kind of like some of the guys that they're interviewing. It's the 2 Rams guys, Scalise, Mike LaFleur. They're both rumored to talk to them. Davis Webb, another young offensive guy, Clint Kubiak. They've got some defensive guys in here too. Minter's talking to everybody. Anthony Weaver's talking to them, I believe. Vance Joseph is talking to them too. So they've got Jeff Hafley as well. So they don't have to go offense, but if they do, I think that this offense could maybe not be good in a hurry. If your boy Fernando Mendoza is good, that obviously is the biggest selling point here and the biggest needle mover. But there are some pieces that if they can get a quarterback in place here, I think this offense could at least be functional in the first year of a new head coach.
That's kind of how my notes went, Matt. Like I actually was looking at it. I'm like, I don't know, man. You can work a little bit with this. I described the defense as a fun fixer-upper. Like it's a house listing. This is a fun fixer-upper. You got Max Crosby. I like Jonah Lialu. And it's like, it's a fun fixer-upper, you know, for anyone interested.
Yeah.
But the offense, man, Ashton Genty, who did have moments. That's the thing. It was such a lost year, but it was like when he did flash, it was like, oh yeah, that's why you're awesome. Brock Bowers, Trey Tucker might actually be my boy, but Trey Tucker, Jack Besh, and Michael Mayer, you get one more real receiver, as I'll put it, like a big receiver. Again, Romeo Doubs, Alec Pierce. That looks way more appetizing to me. Like they actually, like, I actually like that group of skill position. Like you said, they need to figure out the O-line. There is a big thinking, football theory, I guess is a good way to put it, where, you know, going from poor to just average is a big jump, you know, and not just with personnel, but with coaching. And I think, honestly, that was one of the worst coached units in the league last year. And it was, you know, it was the case of nepotism. I'll be frank about it. And that was probably the crux of a lot of the issues was, and you could tell how there was a ton of, lack of detail. You could tell the lack of preparation, guys not on the same page on basic plays. running into bad boxes. Just everything was a mess. Everything was a mess. And they're moving offensive linemen around left and right. And that's come out in articles. I believe ESPN had an article. I want to say it was Kalen wrote that, but someone someone's touched on it. So sorry, I'm not sourcing it correctly, but they were just talking about like, oh, these guys were moving spots right before the season started. This guy would never had any snaps at center for years. And all of a sudden he's our center. And it's like, just getting these guys head straight. There's some talent here. It's not great, but it's not as bad as it looked. It should have been more like the 22nd offensive line, not the worst in the league. And I think that you can get, if you just get a good coach in there, like really honestly nailing the whole line coach might help out so much with this team. But you got the number one pick, you got a quarterback, the owner's insane. Like you have to know that, but you're hoping Tom Brady kind of brings some normalcy there. And I think Tom Brady's got a little bit of a fire to kind of make this better, because Tom Brady has a lot of pride. I mean, that's why he's improved as a commentator, is because he has a lot of pride in what he does. That's why he's great at everything he touches. So I think that there's going to be some like, oh, okay, this is embarrassing for me. My name's on it. All right, I'm going to help fix this out. That could be bad, but I think it is good overall. But why I'm saying all that is, if you look at the candidates, they interviewed Evero. So there's interviews and requested interviews. So Evero, Matt Nagy, Kevin Stefanski, which I actually think this would be an interesting fit here. Vance Joseph, Davis Webb, you mentioned Mike LaFleur, Clint Kubiak, Jesse Minter, and Jeff Hafley, defensive coordinator for the Packers. To me, this is the one that I would go offensive guy. I would really try and groom and build from day one with a quarterback with an offensive play caller and go from there. And I think Mendoza could have, if you get another lineman, one more pass catcher, have a decent, and the defense can come in time. You're not going to win next year. But if you get to that, like, just, okay, tangibly interesting, like, that's why I think is appealing. The pressure shouldn't be there unless Mark Davis is just out of his mind, which he is half the time. So it is that I look at this team and I'm just looking at it. I'm like, man, that's more appealing than you would think. I think that's how I've looked at it. And they now pay the staff and the coaches way more than they have in the past. The Raiders in the past have been one of the cheapest teams as far as how they pay their head coach and their assistants. And I think that now they got all this money, the VC money in there, that's going to help them kind of like boost their staff and everything. It could be more respectable if they get the right guy. Again, I would lean to Stefanski. I'm not the most original thinker in the world about this stuff, but that's a guy that actually makes a little bit of sense to me, because I think he can bring a high floor offense with Mendoza, and I think that's a great fit as far as play caller and quarterback. So that's all I'm looking at right there. All right. Any closing thoughts on the Raiders?
I would agree with you that it's an offense one for me here is what I'd go with, and I'd be open to even a first timer. I like the Stefanski suggestion, but even if you get creative with one of those guys, I mean, maybe Clint Kubiak obviously I think would be interesting. I don't know. I don't know if he has. I've heard people say he doesn't have like the personality for a head coach, but I mean, listen, if you're good, you'll grow into it. I wouldn't say that every head coach in the NFL
I've never heard anything
personality in the world
positive or negative about him as a head coach. Like Brian Schottenheimer was one of those guys. I'm just using the Nepo guys. But Brian Schottenheimer was always said, like, this guy might be a better head coach than a play caller. And I've heard that from 15 people over the years. And everyone said that. And now I'm like, okay, you guys were right. I actually agree with that. Yeah. I think he's actually going to be a pretty good head coach. So I think they can get creative with it too. Like, I really do. Like, I think Mendoza too, the Shanahan Kubiak guys are going to love Mendoza. Like, his skill set really is appealing to that type of offensive system, which Stefanski has a little bit of, but his offense is kind of a hybrid. There's some Peyton in there. There's a little bit of everything in his offense, but those guys are like Kubiak and Mendoza could be an interesting fit. Who's the other one? Oh, Mike LaFleur, who's the OC for the Rams. That could be an interesting fit if you really want to go out of left field, all that stuff. But all right, we're going to take our first break. Before we do that, check us out on the Yahoo Sports Network, available on leading fast services or on yahoosports.tv. That is the Yahoo Sports Network. Saw my mug on a couple fast ads, and I had a lot of people send that to me. I look extra crispy on that one, so it's fun. But anyways, we're going to take our first break, and we'll come back with a few more of these coaching openings. See you guys in a sec. We are back. And now we're going to get to, a team I just kept mentioning, Kevin Stefanski, and we're going to talk about the team that he just got fired from and went 5-12, the Browns. Stefanski was there for 6 seasons, had 2 Coach of the Year awards, no big deal. When you look at the Browns, Matt, They got a couple first-round picks in a 1 quarterback draft class, maybe 2 with Dante Moore, depending how you look at it. What else they got? Their offensive line is completely nuked. They don't have a ton of cap space. They can do some things to open that up. They got some good, interesting young players, but they need a quarterback. They need a couple offensive linemen. They need a receiver. But other than that, how's the play, Mrs. Lincoln? But when you look at the Browns, what is appealing to a coaching candidate, Matt?
You'll get to be on the videos when they're like hyping up Myles Garrett. You'll appear in those videos. Also, money. You'll get paid more money than you were in your last job. Yep. Most likely, you'll get paid more money. Other than that, I don't know, man. This is tough. The 2 first-round picks, obviously, that helps. But you got the Watson circus. You got the Shador circus. You've got just the Browns circus in general. I don't know, man. I think this is a tough sell. I hate to say it, but I do think this is a really tough sell. And I don't even know how much of a, the appeal for the Raiders was as a blank slate, right?
Yeah.
How much of a blank slate of a roster do you think this is? I mean, again, they have 2 first-round picks. That's great, but you don't have the first overall pick. You don't have an immediate access to just any quarterback that you want. You don't have you've got the Watson albatross contract still hanging over your head at least for 1 more year. Are they going to try to make it work again with Watson?
He was so bad when he played.
I mean, could you imagine he has to be on the roster? Like, that's the thing. I mean, unless you're paying him to stay away. So okay, here's another selling point. Instead of 53 players, you get 52 because you've just got one guy just hanging around. And again, it's a circus. So yeah, I don't, there's not a lot, to be honest, there's not a lot appealing about this one here. Do you got anything better than that?
No, and on top of it, you're going to be saddled with the GM that's still there, Andrew Berry. So you have to get along with him, and kind of have to eat crow. And obviously, that's who the owner prefers. And they fire the head coach and keep the GM. Okay, so the owner likes the GM already. All right, so you just talk about politics and all that, like that. Again, when you have guys deciding between a couple spots, these are the things they look at. All right, who's the GM? Who's the head coach? What's the ownership like? All right, then we look at the rest of the roster, and to me, you got no QB. I'm saddled with the GM, and this place has been a mess. All right, let's go. And that's it's not the most appealing job. So the good players, obviously, Myles Garrett, who's 30, Harold Fannin, cool tight end, Carson Schwessinger should be defensive rookie of the year. I really like him. Quinshon Judkins, running back, Denzel Ward, getting a little bit older, good player. Tyson Campbell played well for them. I will say that. Malik Collins. Okay, so rookie contract guys. What's that? Fannin, a tight end, Schwessinger, a linebacker, Judkins, a running back.
And coming off a major injury.
All right. Coming off a major injury. And I think that 4 starting offensive linemen, if we include Cam Robinson, are free agents. They're interior for sure. Tevin Jenkins, who had some interesting moments for him, is a free agent as well. Jack Conklin, the right tackle, is 32 and has battled some injuries, I think, recently as well. Whew. But other than that, man, it looks good. Great spot. Got a stadium coming. I guess that might be an appeal for it. But this is just the mess that they're in. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, you're in the same division with Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. I mean, I don't know. Burrow, obviously the Bengals are the Bengals are a mess in their own right. They haven't been. I love all these no Lamar, Patrick Mahomes, and Joe Burrow in the play. Like, Burrow ain't been in the playoffs for 3 years. Okay, enough already. But
years now.
I mean, so I don't know. Maybe that was stupid of me to even bring that up. But yeah, you're in a very competitive division that you have not made a lot of noise in recently. Yeah, they do have young player. I mean, Mason Graham too. Obviously, had some moments for them. 100%. Like they've got some good players for sure. They have some young talent. Other than that, I think there's more. If I'm doing the yellow legal pad pros and cons list, I think there's probably a lot more cons in the pros, which I think, by the way, is reflected in some of the people that they've interviewed. I think they've had to cast a wide net, including 2 of the guys that are currently already in the building. Like, let's see what Jim Schwartz has to say. Let's see what Tommy Rees has to say, who was the offensive coordinator and took over play calling. And there were a lot of reports that he was key with working with Shador. I think they might have to do something like that. I mean, I think they even talked to Dan Pitcher, and I think they're the only ones that have expressed any interest in talking to Dan Pitcher, the Bengals offensive coordinator under Zach Taylor. I think they might have to do something like that. Get somebody in here that is just, we'll call it a creative and different hire than maybe what other people are looking at.
If I were a betting man, which I used to be, I would say that it's one of the coordinators gets promoted. You're not going to complain, are you? Here, we'll double your paycheck. All right.
Boom.
We'll see. We'll talk about this in a couple of years once we actually are like serious. That's, to me, it feels like it's a Band-Aid solution. Maybe they go super creative and they get a young player, a young coach that wants one of the 32 spots. That happens all the time. Maybe that's what happens. Maybe that's the path that they go down. Pritchard is that guy, Dirday, who's the defense coordinator for the Seahawks. I've heard nothing but good things about him. He's more of a defensive line guy. Monken, the OC, we talked about him. I like Monk just as an OC. My dad used to work with Monk. I like him just as an OC. That's just kind of where I think his ceiling is in the NFL. And even Mike McDaniel, which could be super interesting. But the thing is, if I were Mike McDaniel, I would turn that down. I'd be like, why would I do this again?
I'd take a coordinator job. I'd take the Lions. He's talked to the Lions about being their offensive coordinator. I'd take that job because you'll be right back in the head coaching cycle next year, 100%. They talked to Scalise too, another young, unproven guy, but you've got the Sean McVay cologne on you, buddy. You don't want to take a job this cycle. You don't have to take the Browns job. Just come back next year.
Just run it right next year. Exactly. I know. And it's like, sometimes you don't have to take it right now. And let others, they say this sometimes on drafting, let another team make a mistake, kind of let another coach make a mistake and take that job. Like, that's kind of how I look at it. And things turn around. Like, if you get the quarterback, I get it. Things turn around quickly. Look at the Patriots. But it's also, my other side of that is that, well, you have to have a valid prospect that makes that exciting. Maybe 2027 is the year. I think it's going to be the race for Arch Manning, but there's other guys in that class that are interesting as well. So maybe that's what they're thinking is they like to be they give Jerry Jeudy an extension because they're like, we want to get ahead of the receiver market. And I was like, okay, but you guys are like kind of like, get ahead of yourselves by giving him money. Yeah. But anyways, it's not the most appealing one. They will spend. I will give them that. But I do think they promote just one of these coordinators. Like, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. That's how I would have the favorite for this position. So I don't know. Like, they just got so much to figure out with this team, and it's just like, let's just continue with the Browns. I just want some good feelings with this team. I like teams being good and interesting, man. Like, that's so much more fun to talk about. Oh, let's get to another factory of sadness. The Atlanta Falcons, who fired Raheem Morris after 2 8-9 seasons. They have hired Matt Ryan as the head of football, which, oh my God, just constant Matt Ryan talk about the head of football. He is in charge of everything on the field. He has the say in everything. He has this, and that, which is cool. I think Matt Ryan loves football. He's a great football mind. He's a great guy as well. He's organized. I guess this is the new trend to get some of these former top players for your franchise. I guess it gives you a cushion as an owner. Because it's like, well, don't get mad at the GM. Are you going to get mad at like, if you're a Jags fan, are you going to get mad at Tony Baselli? With the Broncos, it's like, are you going to get mad at John Elway? That's how it used to be anyways. Are you going to get mad at Matt Ryan? That's kind of what you're doing here. Yeah. But fired Raheem Morris.
Eventually they get mad at John Elway, though. That is the thing. Eventually they got mad at John Elway.
They did. John Elway got kicked upstairs. But then
you just get to like retreat and go away.
That's
it's fine. So yeah.
Because then you go, oh, we'll let the GM do his job. So that you don't have to fire anybody. You don't have to pay an extra contract, but then you also get that first step. There's like a famous saying in the Army. My uncle told me this. It was like when you're hired at the top position, you write 3 letters. And the first one is, okay, when they come in, okay, this is the letter of resignation for this guy, for their first top assistant. The second one's the letter of resignation for the next guy. And the third one's your own resignation. Same thing with head coaches. Like Dan Quinn, I'm not calling plays, fire the defense coordinator. Oh, offense. Okay, now we got the offense. All right, now, third time around. Okay, now the heat's on me. But that's all this is anyways. But the Falcons, though, Matt, what is the appeal of this team if you're one of these free agent head coaches?
You got Bijan Robinson. You got Drake London. That was what Raheem Morris said when they asked him, why did you take this job?
Yep.
And
That's
you still
it.
got those guys. And you still got those two guys. You've also, it looks like you've got two quality players in your edge rushers last year. I don't know if it was worth what they did last year, but this is one that I would be interested in talking to offensive candidates too, because you had such a good thing with Jeff Ulbrich last year. I'd ask them like, hey, if you talk to Kubiak, if you talk to Mike McDaniel, who I believe they have spoken to both of those guys, how would you feel about working with Jeff Ulbrich, who did some good stuff for us last year? I think that could actually be a selling point if you are one of those offensive coordinators who just wants to focus on your side of the ball. And there's a lot to focus on this offense because we don't really know what's going to happen at quarterback. So maybe you do just farm off that. And I thought it was telling that the Cowboys tried to talk to Jeff Ulbrich and the Falcons said, no, thanks. He is still under contract for us. We're going to be making that decision here. That was telling to me. McDaniel obviously has history with Matt Ryan, I believe as well, from the 2016 Falcons era there. So yeah, I think there's some appeal if you're an offensive head coach, I think, to come in here and you have two awesome players to build around. Bijan coming off like an incredible year. Drake London was incredible when he's healthy. And other than that, like, you can add a lot to the skill position rooms because Kyle Pitts is a free agent. We'll see what happens with him. But definitely some tweaking potentially to do on the offensive line. You've had injuries at right tackle this past year. Jake Matthews, another year older. But I think if you are an offensive head coach, there'd be some appeal to taking this job, despite the fact that, we have no freaking clue what they're going to do at quarterback this year with Penix coming off another major injury.
It's like, I said, fun collection of weapons. Maybe have a young QB. Like, that's how I put it. 2 wars.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. He's not for everybody. Like, I think there's limitations. Like, I don't think he's very good with a good fit with anyone from a Shanahan and Kubiak offense that loves to work the middle and loves to work from under center. So then you're already like pigeonholing yourself about who could be a fit there. You sucker in a defensive coach, but do you want to get away from doing a defensive coach again? I could see the Falcons doing that, being like, oh, we just did defense, now we got to go offense. That's what some of these owners do. I'm looking at the Falcons website and it's just so funny. They're praising the assistance from 2 consulting firms, ZRG Partners and Sportsology.
That's another thing.
Yeah. If you can consult, man, that's the gig. Just give me a couple $100,000 just to state the obvious. Oh, I got 5 candidates for you. It's the candidates everybody's interviewing. All right, where's my check? Like, so simple. Oh, hire your former quarterback as the head of football. That'll be $100,000. Thank you. Sorry, but that's the real gig that we got to get into, Matt.
Totally.
I don't know. So you maybe have a young quarterback. Don't think he's a great fit. Kirk Cousins, or for some offenses, Kirk Cousins, and Penix is coming off another knee injury. Kirk Cousins, they have restructured his contract where he essentially is a free agent, I believe, in March. So he can move on. You don't have a first rounder. You have a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 7th. Not the greatest draft class, so not the end of the world, but still a top 15 pick. So not ideal to be giving up in any draft class. That's a starter. 13th overall. I just look, their free agents aren't crazy. Kyle Pitts, they're middle of the pack cap space. Kyle Pitts, chunk of their front 7, and then Tyler Algier. I think they need O-line depth, and succession plans. Jake Matthews, you mentioned him. I think they need secondary pass catcher at receiver, and they need defensive back 7. So there's still a lot of needs. It's just like you said, Bijan Robinson and Drake London's a very cool start, but you might be in the we need a quarterback pile, which is then you're in just a weird purgatory with this team because you have enough, kind of just like what they were, kind of have enough, but then you're still trying to get over that hump. I don't really love it. I think this is a weird franchise right now, and they went all in basically for this last 2 years, and it just kind of like it came out to 8-9 and giving away your first round pick. They've interviewed Mike McDaniel, who has a connection with Matt Ryan. He was on that. I was on that same staff actually. He coached, was an assistant in the Falcons. Don't love the fit with Penix there. They interviewed John Harbaugh, which I'm kind of like. I think they might. They kind of have a little bit of that where they like just want to pay a proven coach just to like be like, hey, get off us. Like Arthur Blank kind of likes doing that. Arthur Blank is very, very sensitive to public perception. And then like most owners are, even though they make billions of dollars. Then Kevin Stefanski and Durde from Seahawks. I know I'm saying his name wrong. Clint Kubiak from the Seahawks. Anthony Weaver, which I think again is a interesting defensive coordinator candidate more than head coach candidate, maybe a head coach candidate down the road. I think they're all in on Harbaugh, and I think maybe Stefanski might be another one that they're looking at, but that's kind of what I think they're going for, like a proven retread, or, you know, in theory, proven retread, as opposed to maybe going out in the open and taking a guy. Is there any names that you like for this spot that you think could be interesting?
Yeah, I really don't care about Penix, honestly. And honestly, I feel if I was the team, I'd feel the same way.
I think that's fair. I don't think you're being mean there, by the way. Like, I think that's a fair kind of just statement. Like, I just want to like reiterate that. Yeah.
Let me maybe I don't care about Penix is not. It sounds way too mean to say it that way, but I'd be looking at anything I got out of Penix as gravy, essentially, at this point, which I know is tough to swallow because you took him in the freaking top 10 picks not that long ago, but the injury red flags have already come to bear. He's an older prospect. The fact that he's not for everybody is going to hang over this too. So I don't even know that like when I'm considering some of those offensive coaches, and I'm not saying that you have to go offense by any means for this job. I just think it's interesting because they got such a nice season out of Jeff Ulbrich last year that if you just essentially put somebody in place there and you tell them, if it is a Mike McDaniel, whatever, okay, if you get it, if Penix comes back, and by the way, Penix probably not even going to be available for most of the offseason anyway, so you probably have to start, if not even into games next year. If you get into the offseason, you have, you know, a Marcus Mariota level free agent, which it's not going to be Mariota because he burned bridges with they burned bridges with him, but he's played for this team before. But like that level of quarterback in free agency, and you get a placeholder there, we're okay if you stink up the joint in 2026. We're building a new thing here with Matt Ryan, and because Ulbrich is there, I think that would be interesting if you get that type of offensive guy. But I don't think it has to be that level of you know, it has to be an offensive player or offensive play caller either. The Harbaugh thing is tough for me though, because I just don't think this team is ready for a quick turnaround at all. Like I think they might be the fourth interesting team in their own mid division right now. And I know they won 8 games. Like I think I'd take what the Saints are building right now because they have Tyler Shuck, and I like what he's got going on. Obviously, the Panthers just made the playoffs.
Cool young line. Olave looked good. Like, you know,
right. Kellen Moore, I think, Kellen Moore is a good play caller, and I think is maybe growing into the head coaching job. I think over time, he's a great example as we're talking about all these head coaching candidates and stuff. Apparently, what all of the guys really liked from Kellen Moore this year is that he was a dork and a little bit of a goober, and he is that's who he is, and that's who he was, you know, giving out 50 game balls to guys who had 2 catches for 33 yards during the game. It grew, and obviously because they finished the season strong, that's part of it too, but just a guy who's authentically himself, that really matters in these conversations here. So I just think if I'm the Falcons, maybe this is the opposite of what they're thinking, but I would be thinking, hey, let's get somebody young that we can grow in here. I would not look for the quick fix head coach because I don't think there's a lot of quick fixes on this roster or available quarterbacks for them to come in here and be good right away.
I think you kind of nail it. They're in a interesting spot because they have like stuff, but this is a franchise that always like, they tried to take their medicine a few years ago when they hired Arthur Smith and Terry, and then with the cap stuff, moving on from Matt Ryan and trying to like, okay, well, either take our medicine, eat our veggies, and just get through this. And it was like, as soon as like they were moving up and they took a little step forward, and then wasn't like playoffs and everything, it was like, oh no, blow it up. Then they do this again, and they're just like all in. It was kind of like, no, just keep the path, steady Eddie. You guys are working there. It's a wide open division. You just build a midterm success at least. And it just is a franchise that's just, I mean, I was in this franchise for a couple of years, and this is my opinion on it. It's just very, God, what's the phrase I'm putting on? But I kind of already said, like, Arthur Blank is sensitive to what people are public perception and everything. I think they hear the noise. Like, they listen to the noise a little too much from the fans, from the national analysts. They listen to it a little too much as opposed to just trusting what they're doing. And then I think the one time they did trust what they were doing, they signed Kirk Cousins after he was hurt, got in trouble for doing it, by the way, because they're already talking to him, and they didn't have a medicals already. And then they take a quarterback at number 8 that had knee injuries as well. Like, just again, like they talk themselves into ways that to paths that maybe don't make sense because they're just like, we got to do something, as opposed to just trusting what they're doing. So yeah, I'm very curious who takes that spot. I don't think they will get one of these guys like Harbaugh or anything, because I don't, like you said, I don't like that fit for them, for either of them. Like, I don't like for the Falcons to go after him, and I don't like Harbaugh to go there, even if they could pay the salaries and everything. So also there's some kind of like little inklings about Tomlin too. You kind of mentioned it last night on the show, like, oh, he's really looking at TV. Oh, this could be the end. It was like, and commentators say that they don't do that like just out the open. They're not like me on a podcast. They're saying that because they know a little bit of something. Don't you agree there, Matt?
Oh, 1,000%. I actually, I've referenced this now because we've talked this is the third straight day we've talked, and it's the third straight day that I'm going to bring up the fact that I write that article every single round of the playoffs about the teams that lose. So I wrote the Steelers up this morning, and I was talking about that, where basically I said that I think it's time for Tomlin, because all these talks are out there, and as you mentioned, they're out there for a reason about Tomlin going to TV. To me, I think, and ironically, my barber is a Saints fan, so I was talking about this with her this morning. Okay. I think, and because she hates this, and I agree I agree with this take. If I was a Saints fan, I would hate it too. She hates what Sean Payton did, where he retired on, fake retired on the Saints to basically get out of what was essentially roster purgatory at least in a large part of his own creation. And it was
give
so
Taysom Hill that contract.
Yeah, right. It was so nakedly transparent what he was doing, and I think that Tomlin's about to do the same thing. That would be my prediction, is that he's going to go to TV for 1 to 2 years, and he's going to come back right after that as the belle of the coaching ball, which is exactly what happened to Sean Payton. And I think that will be the new way for these guys that feel as if they are stuck in this kind of purgatory situation, and maybe the team kind of agrees with it as well. And it's kind of a win. It ultimately ends up, except for the fans, because I do think it's kind of I would hate it if I was a fan of the team, and I kind of don't like this parachute out of a situation that you created. But I think it's going to be the new way for, like, all right, the team thinks this is maybe time to move on. They get a little draft compensation, so they win out of it, and you win because you go get a boatload of TV money, and then you come back as, like I said, the belle of the coaching ball. That's kind of the way I think this is going to happen with Tomlin, because I was writing, again, I wrote this article this morning, and as part of it, I revisited what I wrote about the Steelers 365 days ago in the last version of that article. And my conclusion was, you could basically just sub out some of the names, change a few offensive metrics, and it's quite literally the same analysis, because they basically just replaced Russell Wilson with Aaron Rodgers, and they did a Frankenstein version of Arthur Smith's offense with Russell Wilson and his kind of hyper specific preferences, and then they just did that with Aaron Rodgers this year, and the defense was overpaid and underperformed in big moments. So I do think it's probably time for these two parties to go their separate ways, and I think a part of that will include like a TV parachute here for Mike Tomlin.
What Belichick tried to do, and then he was like, "Yeah, wait,
me?
Wait, no, you want me, right? Right? Falcons, you want me, right?" And actually, it was just a plant, just a smoke out a snake. And that's literally all that was. It was just like, all right, who's giving the info to the reporters? All right, hey, we're gonna interview Bill Belichick. Oh, that got out. You're fired. And if you look at what happened to that timeline, you can see exactly what happened. And also, Tomlin's 53. And that's not that old in coaching terms. Like,
not at all.
Sean Payton's 62 and he got traded for, I think, we're kind of like in your prime of a coach. Dan Quinn's older, Sean Payton's older, Jim Harbaugh's older, Todd Bowles is 62. That makes sense. He played with my dad. And then Andy Reid. So it's not like he's like a crazy old head coach. I mean, he's gotten the most out of him. You see players just always going like, I love playing for him. And what you're saying, it's almost like the political compromise, I guess, where the team's okay with letting a good coach go. They can reset, give themselves an excuse to reset too. Like, it's kind of hard to explain to Tomlin, who loves his vets, to go like, hey, now you got to go young here. Like, obviously he doesn't want to do that. Look at Caleb Johnson's playing time this year. Like, it's just, that's not what the Steelers do. They Steelers and Packers, a lot of these the Packers don't have an owner, but these old legacy ownerships, like the Rooneys, who are extremely respected. Like what they do, they kind of operate by the beat of their own drum. Sometimes it's the Giants and the Maras who do their own thing, and they try to like do the right thing, and sometimes that gets them in trouble because they're kind of like basic with some of their thinking. I think they talk to too many other people. Oh, well, Belichick, what do you think? Which one of your assistants should we hire? Like, they kind of listen to that a little bit too much. But like the Rooneys kind of do their own thing. This is a team that's only had 3 head coaches since the 60s. They draft rookies and they let them just develop, and that's what they try to do, as opposed to like, oh, okay, this guy's an instant impact player. You know, it's kind of hard to ever predict these teams because it's not in a wild way everything's on the table like some franchises, more everything's on the table in the sense because they are so slow and thoughtful with their process. But yeah, I don't know, I'm fascinated by that. If Harbaugh got fired, anyone could get fired. That's kind of how I think about it, because it's a scary world out there for a toy.
Can I break some news to you, Nate? Can I break some news to you right
please.
now? This from Adam Schefter, literally as we were talking. Breaking after a historic 19-season run in Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin just informed his team he is stepping down as the Steelers head coach. Sources tell Jeremy Fowler and me. So, yeah, they're looking for their fourth head coach since 1969 are the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, good thing we already covered that.
Right?
Good thing we covered that already.
As we're recording too. That's perfect. There's no like it happened an hour after and we're like, hey, I gotta do 5 minutes real quick. No, that's yeah, we already did that segment. That's great.
We already did it.
You know, other than okay, again, this has happened a couple times this year. Speaking of the Saints, Jonathan Vilma also just going like, after one bad pass, going, Spencer Rattler needs to be benched. They got put in Tyler Shuck out of nowhere, and then that's production meetings, them telling him stuff. Same thing with what we were talking about happening last night when everyone's just like, yeah, this feels like the end. This is it. And then it comes out today. God, who reported it? They go, you know, Tomlin looks like he's working TV. And if he did work TV, he would really like to work for Fox. It was like, okay, that's a few steps down this path. Like, that's very detailed. Not just, oh yeah, he might work TV, he might do media. It was like, no, he wants to do TV and he wants to do Fox. And it was like, okay, so obviously he's talking to somebody. Yeah, I mean, we covered it. Man, the Steelers again are going to operate on their own. They might go anywhere. You got to understand, when they hired Tomlin was a 1-year defense coordinator, and he got hired when he was 35. Under Brad Childress, 34, maybe even like somewhere around that age, when they hired Cowher young. They will hire a young guy. Like, this is the team that really might just go way out of left field, more than people will think. The Rooneys, that's a famous, I don't know, it's not a famous line, but it's a line I've heard. Dan Rooney, I believe, said it, one of the Dan Rooneys. And he said, like, someone asked, what's the key to hiring a head coach? And he said, you hire the smartest guy in the room and you give him time and support until they figure it out. And so I'm curious who they interview, and I'm curious who they go with. That's an interesting one. What a season.
Absolutely.
9 openings.
Yeah.
There's one quarterback in this class.
I know.
We're talking about these kids.
Yep. And like I said, everything I said at the start completely holds true here. Like, this was the right time to do it for Tomlin. It was the right time to do it for the team, because Tomlin does not want to sit here and rebuild, and they need to rebuild. Like, it is time. It was time last year. It's definitely time this year. No more half measures. Start over. Get one of these young guys in here, get some new blood going on. I think it's great. And I think Tomlin will spend 1 year at Fox NFL Sunday, just like Sean Payton did. He'll be yucking it up with Gronk and Terry and the boys there, and everybody's going to be loving it.
At it.
He'll be great at it. Every big media, show on TV today is going to be barking about how crazy this is, and Steelers will miss Mike Tomlin. And guess what? He'll be right back in the coaching cycle. If not in 2027, it'll be 2028. The Steelers, if he's still on their contract, we'll get a little draft pick for him. If not, everybody's gonna be trying to hire him. Good for everybody involved. People need to accept this sometimes. It is. Yeah. This is not a statement about, this is relationships.
We're just about a statement about life more than anything. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like sometimes it's time.
The most mature thing you can do as a person is realize, or at least one of them is realize, that just because a relationship ends doesn't mean it wasn't beautiful, doesn't mean it didn't mean something. And you don't have to hate everything because of how it ended, and that, I think, is where we're at with this Steelers thing. It was time. Now they can move on, and both parties can move forward. And like, this is a good thing, I think, for everybody involved. Just like that person that you dated in college, you didn't end up marrying them, but you can look back on that and be like, that really mattered. That really informed who I am as a person today. And we can all be better for it. Hopefully they found somebody, I found, the whole deal. Like, that's how life is, man.
I think you're nailed it, Matt. I think your assessment of this whole situation is perfect. Like I truly, I mean that. Like I think you have nailed like the timing of this and the potential path. I think everybody's taking, all the characters in this. No, it was needed. Long in the tooth. You use that phrase. I know it's a common phrase, but you've used it about this team a lot, especially their defense. Just feels like this tenure started to get long in the tooth. So I think you nailed it. But we're going to take our last break. We'll come back with those 4 more openings because we've already covered 5 and now we got 4 more to cover, but we'll get to that after the break. See you guys in a sec. We are back. Time for the final 4. We got the Miami Dolphins. 7-10 this year. That's some moments, but they fired Mike McDaniel after 4 seasons. Kind of felt like this. Bench Tua. Felt like that was coming. This was a weird year. Even when they started the season, it looked like they were just going to give up. Showed some heart and then kind of tapered off as the season went along. Still, I don't know. The pieces of this team are kind of interesting as when I kind of looked at it, but they don't have a QB. They don't have a lot of cap space either. They're an aggressive team. They got an owner that's aggressive. He's willing to pay, so you can build up a nice, juicy staff if you want. But Matt, when you looked at the Dolphins and you are a free agent coaching candidate, what's the appeal of the Miami Dolphins outside the weather and no state income tax?
Right, that's nice. There are 2 forks in the road here for the Miami Dolphins, and I'm curious which way they go down here. Like 2 paths present themselves here. I think this, to me, my first instinct is this job's got John Harbaugh written all over it. Big name, get some credibility in here. You're in a tough division. The Bills are here. The Patriots are back, baby. You're competing with the Jets to not be the joke of the division, and you're hoping to get closer to that Patriots-Bills tier here. I think that's the John Harbaugh path. Like, you're looking to immediately do that. But I think you also run the risk of doing what happened to the Raiders last year, where you get a little too many cooks in the kitchen, because they just hired the GM from Green Bay, right? And I think that brings me to the other path here, which is, I think maybe the smarter move is you pair Hafley and you pair Jeff Hafley, defensive coordinator from the Packers, and you pair him with the GM that comes from the same building. And you look at this more as like a long-term retool here, because you probably will be saddled with the Tua albatross contract here. I think he'll probably just hang around on the roster, not in the same toxic way that we talked about with Deshaun Watson, because it's just not the same off-field situation there. But you'll probably hang around with him. He probably won't be like a serious contender to be your quarterback, but you'll probably have to pay him the money, just keep him around, or you swallow the dead cap there, and that becomes even more of a, hey, we're just kind of hanging out for a year before we can really compete in future seasons. So to me, I would go down the second road, but I think that's how they'll look at this situation, those 2 paths here, and I don't know if I trust them to make the right call. No,
this owner could be a little freewheeling, so that's the thing. You never know with some of these owners. Speaking of Tua, after he got benched, how about the source, not rumor, but whatever you want to call it, reporting of, oh yeah, we tried to trade 4 first-rounders for Joe Burrow in that draft class. And after that, I was like, yeah, of course. You know what's very funny about the retconning of history is that Tua, for a long time, was the prize of that draft class until it was tank for Tua, which I never agreed with. But anyways. But Burrow had an amazing season. Herbert was the other interesting guy. Oregon, okay, what that offense is a little weird. Honestly, if you watch him, he was throwing to the offense sucked, and he was throwing to receivers wearing 36. That's always a sign of what the personnel is. And the whole time was the owner was infatuated with Tua. Like, that's what everyone said, that was his guy, that no matter what, that's who they were going to take. So that's why I think it's so funny that they're like, yeah, we tried to trade for Burrow. It's like, bullshit. You guys were so happy with Tua. Like, it really, like, if they were smart, they would have been like, we tried to trade up to 2 for Herbert. That would have been like the actual smart rumor to plan out there. And then said, they're like, no, we trade for Burrow. It's like, but that was never going to happen. And also, it wasn't what you guys were trying to do. But I think, anyways, that I had to kind of get that off my chest. I've been looking, squinting at that, like, just think for a second what used to happen, or what the reporting was originally. But looking at this team, they have a better O-line than you would think. They have some fun weapons, Achane, Waddle. They have some fun defensive pieces. Some of them a bit older, but still some young guys that are cool. The DBs need some work. They have an owner that's willing to spend. I just knocked him, but he'll be aggressive. And that's the thing why I think this also, I think Hafley, if I were to wager, is going to be the guy, like you said, with the GM pairing. But also Harbaugh, it's already been reported that he wants to build out an all-star staff. Obviously, he doesn't call plays. He's with the Ravens, who pays staff members very well, coaching and scouting. So that's what he's used to. If you're going to build out an all-star staff, not every team pays. They have a limit to the coaching pool that you get, which is an appeal to some places that they'll just spend whatever you want, like the Eagles or something of that sort. But when you look at the teams that like Harbaugh's been rumored to, you can kind of like narrow it down by that. Who will pay assistant coaches a pretty penny? So that's why the Giants are live. I mean, the Falcons are kind of live in that regard, but that's why the Dolphins are very live for Harbaugh, because they will spend a big coaching staff or a big pool on the coaching staff. And that's what he kind of requests. Like, it's like a $40 million investment to bring in Harbaugh and his staff, like that he like projected to hire. Watch, he just hires Greg Roman. Kill me. But that's why when people are like, oh, well, there's Packers fans that are so mad at LaFleur, and they're like, oh, we're gonna bring in Harbaugh, and it's like, no, you're not. You're not paying those assistants. They don't pay assistant coaches. That's why it's all buddies. So that's why, unless they change their entire philosophy, which they don't do in Green Bay, Hafley took a pay cut going from being a college head coach at Boston College to be an NFL defense coordinator, which one tells you about recruiting in college, but two is that like it wasn't like they just gave him some big juicy deal. He took a pay cut to be in the NFL, like, because again, the Packers aren't going to pay a ton, and that's only because LaFleur knew him. But looking at the guys they've interviewed, so this is from the Miami Herald. They just kind of grouped it all together. Harbaugh, Hafley, Robert Saleh, Stefanski, and then might call Mike McCarthy. There's some Packers connection there as well. The GM they hired, who I'm blanking on his name right now, I should probably look it up, but he is only a Packer. Like, from scouting intern on, has just moved up in the Green Bay, which can be a quality because they do things in the right way. I don't agree with all of it, but in the right way. But also, it's a little scary. Sometimes that's a little scary to me, like the one spot itis, and then they go somewhere else. But anyways, and then they also, oh yeah, if the Packers do move on from LaFleur, that was the other one, because of the relationship in Green Bay. They also asked, Chris Shula, which really interesting. Is because of Don Shula, being the grandson of Don Shula, who's a legend in Miami. And the Dolphins have also completed an interview with one candidate, which is Clint Kubiak, who met virtually. So kind of the regular names that we've said on this entire show. Any of those guys, like, I don't know, Harbaugh is one, but also this doesn't seem like Hafley, again, is my betting favorite. But any of these guys, are you kind of agreeing with that?
Yeah, that was my thought too. Those two forks in the road, I would go down the Hafley road and look at this more of a long-term vision thing, but I'm not 100% sure that's how they feel.
Yeah, I know. These owners, man, we forget the owners. They want certain things that maybe the fan base or that we think is different. I also just beat around his name, Stephen Ross. I should say his name. But anyways, let's move on to the Cardinals, who also have an ownership group that can be very frustrating. And I think the other owners really, really like that, because they're another legacy team, the Bidwells. And I think the other ownership group's like, hey, you guys just do what you do. We'll give you the Super Bowl every 8 years. And then you guys just do whatever. Just do whatever. Just keep being incompetent. But they went 3-14. I don't know who predicted them for the playoffs. Well, I don't know. Nobody on this show. But they fired Jonathan Gannon after 3 sets.
But I don't know.
That's the thing. I can't even go like, oh, I nailed Seahawks take. Oh, and I said the Lions will miss the playoffs because I had the freaking Cardinals in the playoffs. So it's not even fun. Like, it's not even, I can't like post that online. Like, that's not even fun. All right. But they fired Jonathan Gannon after 3 seasons. It was an absolute mess this year. He's yelling at players. They're sloppy, just blowing leads to the Titans late. It was just everything opposite of what I thought this franchise was building towards. They went 15-36. They benched their quarterback, Kyler Murray. They said he was hurt, but it was a benching. I don't know with this team. They need offensive linemen. MHJ and Michael Wilson and Trey McBride, very fun pass catching trio. They need a running back. They still need some defensive help. I do think they just got so many injuries on this team that it's kind of hard to really grade them. They were playing better and they had some flashes. Walter Nolan was incredible when he was on the field. He just got hurt again. This is a team that needs some work. They're playing in a tough ass division. They have no quarterback. But other than that, what's the biggest selling point for the Cardinals, Matt, if you're a coaching candidate?
Oh my God. Yeah, this is another tough one because of the division, because of the lack of roster talent and just the ownership and all of it. And yeah, I agree. Sometimes like I think we judge guys a little too harshly off the press conference and some of that, but the initial reaction of, Jonathan Gannon and the sure, like it was just, this isn't going to go well, and that's exactly how it felt with the Cardinals.
That one worked out all right.
That one worked out all right. Ben McAdoo in the big goofball suit, that also didn't work out too well either. So there's definitely some times where the press conference can indeed be telling. That was certainly one of them, because that was like a laughable moment, and this team has been pretty laughable. I do think defensively I agree with you. There's some interesting pieces there. Some young guys too. They just got to get healthy. That's a big part of it. And they're keeping the GM too, so that the front office will be pushing to see some of those draft picks find success. So I think if you're a defensive minded coach, I think that I would call it like blank slate adjacent with enough like cherries on top to be interesting. Offensively, I think you're right. It's a fun 3 pass catching group. And I'd also say to anybody I'm interviewing, like, what's your plan for Marvin Harrison Jr.? Like, not just on the field, but how are you going to get this guy like engaged and believing in what our vision is offensively? I don't know if this organization is smart enough for that, but that would certainly be something I'd talk to them about, because, you hear this all the time where guys who didn't play in the NFL or, aren't these big names or whatever. Mike McDaniel's talked about this, where how do you get a player, to believe in you is you show them like, this is what I'm going to be able to do for you. These are all the ways I'll be able to use you and maximize you and everything like that. I do think the opposite of that probably exists too, when you are a player that has Harrison's background and everything. Okay, he sees some of the vision that's going on here, and it's like, I'm just going to kind of not check out, but maybe be 80%, 85% engaged with this whole thing, when that extra, 15% really matters an awful lot. So that would be something, if I was an offensive coach, that you've got 3 pass catchers here. If I'm smart enough and confident enough to feel like I can get better out of the former 4th overall pick than what we've seen so far, I think I'd have a belief in myself to be able to get that done. But other than that, this one is another tough sell here to me.
And you got a GM that's still there. Like, that's the other thing. You got to think about pairings with GM and like that. Again, you're looking at quarterback, owner, GM. And it's not someone that you're tied at the hip with. It's now a guy that you guys are on different timelines, potentially different philosophies. So that also has to be a fit. Where did Monty's history? I'm just even trying to think, because I know he's
from the Titans. Guy,
and the Titans right before, right? Yeah. And then the Patriots before that. Yeah, a bunch of Patriots. So some Texans in there. Yeah, but that's old Texans. Yeah, so Titans and Patriots. So that's like, you just got to think of that. Like, there's no real Patriot candidates right now that I could think of. And Titans, Arthur Smith? Oh, boy. But I don't think they've interviewed him, so they haven't. So I think this is who they've interviewed and who they've requested. Vance Joseph, Robert Saleh. It's gonna be not the juiciest candidates, because the team and what their makeup is. So, like, honestly, Vance Joseph is actually not a bad one. Like, he's coached one time with the Broncos before. He's at least going to bring a funky defense that'll be tough, and they have some tools. Like, it's not going to, he was just a defense coordinator there before, but it won't be as crazy to change with their personnel and everything. And then you just figure out the offense. I think you have to go in with Jacoby Brissett this season. That's just your stopgap quarterback. He's under contract for 1 more year, because again, not a lot of candidates out there to fill those spots. But Vance Joseph, Robert Saleh, Clint Kubiak, Anthony Weaver, Thomas Brown, who is just
that Thomas Brown one.
He's with the Patriots right now.
On my spreadsheet, there's a few of them where it's like just one, one franchise has interviewed you. We're going to talk about 2 other candidates where only one franchise has talked to them. But like Thomas Brown, I was like, oh, Thomas Brown getting an interview with the Cardinals? All right, sure, whatever.
Yes. It must have been, what he did when he took over the Bears offense. I think that that must have been It was awesome, man. Yeah, I know Thomas Brown has got I think he talks to the media a lot because he gets a lot of hype in these coaching candidate pool, like lists and everything. And it's been that way for like ever since I've been in media. It's been that way. I first heard his name in like 2021. Matt Nagy, interviewed him. It might be a Matt Nagy team.
Yeah, I think man, this might be the Nagy spot. Him and Monty are both, bald white guys. Like they could kind of look alike. So there you go.
The bald white guy synergy. Stone Cold Steve Austin and Goldberg, man. That's they're gonna get together. This might be the Matt Nagy spot actually. And then Jeff Hafley, which spot. It actually is. To me, like if I just looked at that list, I'm like, this is Vance Joseph or Matt Nagy, because I think Robert Saleh won't take this. I think Saleh would just go, I'll go back to San Fran and then wait until next year. Like, because honestly, look, he did a great job this week. That defense wasn't great this year. It's pretty basic still in my eyes. They did some cool stuff, but like the stock's going up. Like we're gonna get Bosa back and Fred Warner back next year and juice this defense even more. Then you take the leap back into the head coaching pool. So it's not a great position. They don't pay a ton. Owner's the owner. Don't have a quarterback. You got your picks, no extra picks. You're saddled with a incumbent GM. Yeah, that's the Cardinals for you. They have pick number 3 at least, pick 34, pick 65. They at least have they have all their picks, but nothing more, nothing less, and they got cap space. So, yeah, need O-line and need quarterback, and you're paired with a GM. That's like just not my favorite spots to like line up if I'm a quarter. That's why I think they go with like a defensive guy or like Matt Nagy, because those guys would be like, oh, whatever, I'll just get the defense right and we'll figure it out. All right, moving on to the Giants, who finished 4-13, fired Brian Daboll midseason after a 2-8 start, and he's getting some OC touts. I saw him getting paired with Philly potentially, which I would be, oh boy. That's going to turn into so. Yeah, he might fight a fan. He might jump the. I don't know if he could jump the railing. He'll need a step stool to get up there. But he might honestly like go after a fan with all that.
That was so funny because I saw that real quick. I saw that this morning, and my first thought was like, oh, schematically, I think that kind of makes sense with what Jalen Hurts does, and kind of spread it out and attack outside the numbers. And then my second thought was, oh my God, you're getting Nick Sirianni, Brian Daboll together in Philly with an unhappy AJ Brown, and like who fights who first? That was my first naive thought.
Emotion.
Yeah, like who? That's a lot of emotion in one room. My first like scheme, like and then naivety passes away, and then my second thought is, oh yeah, somebody's fighting somebody. So hey, that could be something to watch.
Let's get the head coach, the play caller that like is addicted to running his quarterback, especially between the tackles, and then give him with Jalen Hurts, who is like refusing to run anymore. It's like you're gonna get that. I think that's why Sirianni worked with Kellen Moore and Steichen, because they were kind of more even keeled, and so kind of like the balance. You need that balance on staffs. Not everyone can be a hothead. Not everyone can be cool. You need balance. You need hotheads. You need a little bit of everything. So that's a big thing. But this Giants team, what's appealing to you? They have They have Jackson Dart, so that's a big thing. I think whoever takes the spot, they have pick number 5. They have an interesting defensive line. I actually like their offensive line more than most people. Malik Neighbors coming back from injury, interesting skill guys. But when you look at this roster, you look at this team, what is like the selling point if you're a coaching candidate?
Yeah, I think if you are a big Jackson Dart guy, which he's obviously in a much more promising place in his career than Michael Penix is, but I think in a very similar way where he's not going to be for everybody. I think there will be coaches, even though he's a young quarterback coming off a good year, will be like, I don't know if that's like my flavor of quarterback, which I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but that's how people are going to think about him. So I don't know if he's for everybody necessarily, but if he is for you, that's a really promising way to start this off. In addition to the fact that you got a top 5 pick, you do have some guys who are coming back from injury. You mentioned Malik Neighbors, you mentioned Cam Scadaboo's another one. Scadaboo's another guy that I think obviously people know his name. He's a well-known player. I don't know if he's for everybody either in terms of your starting running back. I think he was very specifically for Brian Daboll. And then Neighbors too has also said that, not that he's behind on his injury recovery, but he was still like on a crutch recently, which is, it's just like something to monitor. He's coming off of a major injury, but I do think there is some interesting pieces on this roster on both sides of the ball. You're in a big market. This is another team that could potentially be John Harbaugh to me. I don't know if Jackson Dart makes sense as a Kevin Stefanski quarterback, but and maybe I'd be curious to hear what you think about that. But if Stefanski likes Dart, which I'm kind of guessing he doesn't, considering the Browns didn't take him last year. Although it's not that the Browns are listening to Kevin Stefanski on anything clearly, but that they're a team that I think is potentially not rife for a quick turnaround, but kind of there for the picking in terms of being relatively competent right away if you can get the right personality here, because I think clearly this was the right personality was not present for this team last year.
There's more with this team than you would think. Like they have more interesting parts, and again, it's how you feel about Dart. I think they're all in on Harbaugh, like all in. They reported from like 5 different places. Oh, they had lunch together with the Maras. Tom Coughlin said he reached out to Harbaugh to sell the Giants. Like it's all in, and that makes sense with the Maras. Maras are they are so traditional as owners. They're so traditional how they view things. They like certain things, and they are big on what the rest of the NFL is doing and feeling and saying. So I made the joke earlier, but like when they hired Joe Judge, it was like, Bill Belichick, what do you think? Like, as opposed to like doing their own research. It's like they really take the weight of other voices, or they really listen to outside voices and maybe what are considered respected voices, which is good in some ways, but I think bad in other ways. And I think the Harbaugh thing is like just like one of those where they're just like, now you guys can't yell at us. That kind of like pairing. Joe Shane is still the GM, and actually I think that might be a selling point for Harbaugh, because it's just like, hey, like, are you already here? Like, gee, I never had anything to do with Baltimore. We were church and state over there as well. Maybe there's some aspect of that. They're willing to pay assistants. So who they go over there, he's going to need a big coaching staff. So that's why I could see this. It's just really, I think the big thing is how you feel about Dart. If you're kind of breaking the tie, some of these coaches, and some of these coaches like a Harbaugh might not care as much because he's like, oh yeah, he's good enough. Like they don't, there's some coaches that just like really kind of bucket these guys. Oh, we can win with him. They don't care, like, and maybe going like, oh, is he QB 18? Is he a tier 1 guy? They just like, oh yeah, he's good enough, especially non-offensive guys. Not trying to undersell what Harbaugh thinks about football and everything, but just saying. So that might not be as big for them. But to me, that's who they are kind of all in on. I think they've interviewed a few other guys. I think they interviewed Lou Anarumo, who's with the Colts now. I'm trying to look at some of the others that they interviewed. Oh, okay. Virtual interviews with Vance Joseph, mentioned him. Broncos special teams coordinator Darren Rizzi, Clint Kubiak they interviewed. They interviewed Antonio Pierce.
Okay.
God, it's the Mara.
So
Sorry.
I just gotta say this. I did
that's
my
new information
spreadsheet. Oh yeah. So when I did my spreadsheet that we hinted at earlier, where I listed everybody who's had an interview, who they've talked to or been rumored to talk to, head coaching experience, background, color coded, whatever. I also have a tier, which is just like my stupid personal opinion about level of interest. The tiers are 1 to 5. There are only 2 candidates that are 5 for me, which is, and 5 is like 5 is like I'm actively gonna laugh if you hire this person, which is only these 2 candidates, because for the most part we don't know about who's gonna be a good head coach or not. Like all the guys in 3s and 4s, it's pretty much like, all right, it's Matt Nagy, whatever. Like it's not inspiring, but whatever. The only 2 guys that were 5s were Antonio Pierce and Jason Garrett, who got interviewed by the Titans. Like I will actively laugh if those guys get hired, and maybe I end up looking like a clown for that because I don't know, they take the Giants or Titans to the damn Super Bowl. Tend to doubt it, but those are the only 2 that were 5s to me. And yes, the Giants talking to Pierce and Titans talking to Jason Garrett. Those were those.
I thought it was Jason Garrett you were referring to, and that I just learned this. Now I'm opening up your sheet. That's amazing, the 2 5s right there, because I'm just reading the candidates, and now my eyes saw Antonio Pierce, and then I looked above. I was like, what year is this art? Like, is this? Did I look at the wrong doc? Like, did I look at like 2020? Post 2024 season candidates?
No.
Yeah. So that was. Okay, Antonio Pierce, I get it. He played for the Giants, but again, that's what this ownership group's about. Like they like their things. They like their legacies and they like their NFLisms. Like, I don't know how to describe it. There's qualities to that, but and as this day and age, as time goes on, and some of these guys that are making these decisions, they're further away from football. They're more business people. So as they are football owners and they've been around their whole lives. Some of these guys weren't former scouts. I know there's some Arizona scouts and everything. Don't get me wrong, but it's like they get away. They're not watching film like they are like some of these other guys that maybe are legacy owners. Like the Rooneys are a lot more hands on with the football stuff. The one Rooney I know, his name's Dan, and he's about our age, and he's going to be the owner down the road. Dude played at Dartmouth. He was a coach. He was a scout. He worked in the front office because they're grooming him to be the owner. And then I look at like the Giants and it's like, oh yeah, you get a director position just because of your last name. Like this is the true bad nepotism kind of thing. But I look at this and so yeah, what do you got? You got Harbaugh, Stefanski, which I saw that if they don't get Harbaugh, Stefanski is their number one guy. They interviewed Minter, Vance Joseph, Raheem Morris. Yeah, this doc's great, by the way. You should post this. Lou Anarumo, Mike McCarthy. Oh, Mike McCarthy, that's right. You give McCarthy a 4. Okay, that's fair. And then Mike Kafka, their own offensive coordinator, who they just ran on a trial period. I think Kafka is an interesting OC candidate for a lot of these teams, but head coach, maybe just
screenshot.
Still need to hold off a little bit for a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. Any of these appeal to you? Any of these coaches appeal? Because we kind of went over the selling point. I think the trenches are. I mean, everyone knows the D-line. It was an underperforming defense. They couldn't tackle on the back end. But I think some competency will really juice up that defense pretty quickly. And I think the O-line, Andrew Thomas and other guys, they still need to add. But that's a pretty dang good. It got really underrated, this offensive line this year. Dart takes a lot of sacks. A lot of them are on him because of his play style. It's a lot like Justin Fields in some ways. But like, I think kind of underrated the offensive line that like this team could be a little bit more competent, quicker, depending how you feel about Dart and depending on who they hire. So, and just is Harbaugh kind of what you're thinking, or do you have a favorite fit? But yeah, that Harbaugh's the guy I'm thinking for this team.
I think if they go Harbaugh and he's able to bring Todd Monken with him, I could talk myself into that as a pretty cool pairing for Jackson Dart. Like, I think legitimately that would be a fun offense for Jackson Dart because got experience with quarterback mobility, read option. Yep. I think you could maybe. Like Cam Scadaboo and Jackson Dart might be for Todd Monken. You know, like I said, they're not for everybody. They might be for him. When Neighbors is fully healthy, you can do some of kind of, obviously you can do everything with Malik Neighbors. He's awesome, but you could also do some of that Mickey Mouse that you did with Zay Flowers too. So like I think, and get the ball in his hands and get him rolling and stuff like that. So, and Harbaugh obviously would also be able to recruit if the Dolphins clean house, if it's Jeff Hafley there, you can bring Anthony Weaver in, you know, or you can, if Denard Wilson gets pushed out of Tennessee, which I imagine is going to happen. You know, one of these guys who've been on his staff before, who maybe have done better in their second stops than Zach Orr did for him in Baltimore. I think you get a pretty good staff going there for New York with John.
Yeah, I can talk myself into that. I like this one. I could talk myself into. That's a great call with the Monken thing. I think too. Not even just the Lamar with Monken. When he had in college, he had Stetson Bennett, who could run. I mean, all he did was run. But like Dart and Stetson Bennett, like Dart's like a supersized version of Bennett. But it's like he made that work and made him look good. So much that he got drafted in the 4th round and still on the roster with the Rams, which I still do not comprehend. But anyways, but I don't know. That actually, as we talk this out, I actually like that a little more than maybe going into even this show or when I prepped it, like the Monken, building out the staff, and then seeing what you got in Dart and going on from there. All right, the last team, you just hinted at them, talking about defense coordinator, Titans. 3-14. They fired Brian Callahan midseason. They had a 4-19 record. This team is a mess. This is another team that has a absolutely insane owner. They have interviewed, it seems like, everybody. Your doc is hilarious. A lot of green. Do you want to list off everybody they've interviewed that you have checked as yes for this team?
Again, I'm about 90 to 95% sure I've got these right in terms of they've either interviewed, requested to interview, scheduled an interview, or like shown some interest in. I have 18 people with the Tennessee Titans: John Harbaugh, Kevin Stefanski, Cliff Kingsbury, Brian Daboll, Jesse Minter, Matt Nagy, Robert Saleh, Mike McDaniel, Chris Shula, Jeff Hafley, Vance Joseph, Raheem Morris, Lou Anarumo, Steve Spagnuolo, Jason Garrett, LOL, Arthur Smith, only one that have contacted Arthur Smith as well, Jonathan Gannon. I think they're the only team that's also contacted Gannon, and Mike McCarthy.
I didn't see that,
yeah, so Again, I'm like if I'm wrong on some of these, it's fine. You can tell me. I did this in about 30 minutes this afternoon after getting my hair cut and before the show. So I think that's probably the right thing to do for Tennessee. Cast a wide net.
Yep.
And just, I can't believe we're showing the screenshot. It's stupid.
I love it. I know. Hey, by the way, our YouTube show, make sure you check it out. The graphics have been great for each team. We had the free agents, cap space, the picks they've had. So yeah, like if you did listen to the audio version, if you want some more visual examples of kind of like the capital each team has, all their assets, like that was a good way to look at it too. So great job, by the way, team, putting those together.
Our production and graphics teams are absolutely top notch here, and not
including screen sharing your doc
but Yahoo, but Yahoo as a whole, we're absolutely crushing it. This clown show, in terms of the screenshots from my stupid,
that's why you make the big bucks,
mind doc. I don't know about that, but shout out to the production and graphic teams here, which have been incredible for this show, no question. But yeah, like this is what I think you should do if you're Tennessee: is cast a wide net, ask a lot of people, a lot of different things. And this is a roster that you have Cam Ward. Of course, you're asking people what you think about Cam Ward. Like, how can you maximize Cam Ward? That's that. Other than that, baby, I don't know. Do whatever you want with this team. If you can put up with Amy Adams-Strunk and some of the weirdness that this team has been, and you are also saddled with Mike Borgonzi and the other shadowy figures in that front office. I mean, that is a part of it too. But
it feels like their GM changes every week.
Yes. So if you can put up with some of that and you like Cam Ward, I think this is a bit of a blank slate appeal here as well for this team. So yeah, I mean, I know you were excited about what you saw from Cam Ward this year, despite the statistics being horrific. And I think that obviously is this a job where you'd look offense only because of that, because the key is getting Cam Ward on track, and I think he's maybe not for everybody either necessarily.
He has better. I would think this would be the nice way to put it, was that I like Ward more. Okay, when I watched Ward as a prospect and I did my big study and deep dive on him, I liked him, and then I liked him even more after I did the study. I was like, okay, you got more real quarterback to you than all the trick shots and everything. Like, your timing is pretty dang good. You're tough. You can, his throw angles are excellent. Like, he's very creative as a thrower, but like, that's why I was comparing to skateboarders, is that like, it's creative, but like, it's actually very sound of how he plays. Like, the mental side of his game is he's a lot more advanced than I think he gets credit for. And that's what's pretty cool to watch, even in the NFL, with bad stats and everything, taking too many sacks, throwing pick sixes. It hasn't been great. There's not a stat I can point at that I'm like, yep, this is why. But you have to watch what he's working with in the pass catchers and everything. But also, I like his fit in different offenses than maybe I envisioned right away. I liked him best in very spread, more dink and dunky kind of offense than maybe I would have originally envisioned for him. And now I'm looking at him like, man, you can operate under center really well. You can like drop back from under center. You turn your back to the defense and you can find your weapons. And why I'm bringing that up is that Shanahan offenses are actually more appealing to him than maybe I thought. I don't know how those coaches think, but I think his quick throwing style, his willingness to throw in the middle, his creativity of throwing, that's what they like. Like, that's why there's always kind of a specific type in those offenses. They like guys with quick throwing motions. And it's just because watch how Purdy plays, watch how Mac Jones played in that 49ers offense recently, even watch how Darnold plays. They like guys that can throw on the move, and then guys that can really get rid of the ball quick. Just to make those quick fire throws over the middle. And Cam Ward, that is, to me, like, I haven't given enough credit. Dane Brugler from The Athletic, he asked me the other day, like, would you rather have Mendoza or Ward? And then I was like, man, if you asked me like 4 months ago, I'd probably just go, or like 3 months ago, I'd probably go Mendoza. But now I've watched Ward after a rookie year, and I'm like, I don't know, man. There's more good here. Like, this is a guy I think can grow into being a tier 2 guy. I wouldn't say like tier 1, which I think are the dudes, the unicorns, but like a tier 2 guy, which is like guys you win with even just a good, not outstanding roster. I think he can grow to that. And I think that he's one of those guys, if you watch him, that like, I think offensive guys are going to be like, oh, especially if you're looking at several spots that don't have a quarterback. I was like, I'd much rather have Ward than a lot of these other guys. Even Dante Moore, that's potentially coming out from Oregon. I think he is now because Dylan Raiola committed to Oregon. Won't get the college talk, but that's another thing. But like you said, it's a clean slate, and you might have a dude at quarterback. And yeah, the owner's insane, but the insane owners kind of stop talking if you win. That you feel the insanity when it's bad, like the when you win, the insanity kind of goes away for a little bit. And so that's why, to me, if you just get somebody that can deal with that knows how to like go around those politics of with the old GM and all that stuff like that, it's the Titans are more interesting than maybe I thought they're such a joke. And I'll be open with that because they just watched them this year. They're so like all over the place and sloppy and just like, what are you guys trying to do here? But Ward is kind of a shining light there, even more than I kind of thought. So that's why, to me, I'm like, they interviewed Mike McDaniel, one of those 17 candidates that you mentioned. That to me has become the like, Mike, like go here. Because that like McDaniel and Ward could be a very fun peeling, and one that maybe I didn't really think of until I've marinated on it and seeing kind of like who's interviewing with and potential pairings with Ward. Sorry,
I think if I'm McDaniel, I'm probably going to stick with a really good offensive coordinator job than going to Tennessee. And I think for Tennessee, it's one, it is I think also, not to shovel dirt on him because he obviously, he's been fired a bajillion years ago, Brian Callahan, but he clearly was like not ready for the job, like emotionally, and I think that's going to be a consideration for them too. Like they don't want to have these weird combative press conferences. So that probably doesn't bring Arthur Smith back into the fold, even though they did talk to him. But that is why, unfortunately, Nagy, I think, might end up at this could be a Nagy job too, because there's Kansas City connection with Mike Borgonzi. And then also, you mentioned some of the Cam Ward stuff, like the original assessment that I might have thought about him until you gave a really good pitch for him as a Shanahan quarterback. And I do think Mike McDaniel's offense, like the creative arm angles going over the middle, that's where I thought Ward was kind of underrated as a prospect, was throwing over the middle. Just didn't see a lot of it last year. Who was he throwing over the middle to anyways? I mean, Van Jefferson, come on. So I think that could work. But the original thought for me was, like a very shotgun spread, get it out quick offense. That does sound a little Nagy-ish. So I think there's a lot there.
I think it's Matt Nagy's spot. You mentioned the 17 guys they interviewed. The first guy they interviewed when they started interviewing people was Matt Nagy, and the connections there, the PR job he's getting right now. I had a friend
and a good steadying presence.
That's what he's known for, right? Calm presence, developing young quarterbacks drafted highly, building offenses around them rather than just doing what Andy Reid did 5 years ago. I had a friend say that Matt Nagy's team and the Titans are paying other teams to interview him just so Titans can go like, see, he is a hot candidate. It's not just us. Like, see? And I hate that. I've spent like 7 shows bashing Matt Nagy. It's just more like, I don't think he's a bad guy or anything, but I just think it's one of these things where it's just a lack of creativity, and that feels very good old boys network to me, and that's why I think it's frustrating, because there's not like, McDaniel is not perfect, but at least he has done cool things and innovative things. Even everybody uses out motions now, and like, people have done that before, but not now. It's like every other play, and he popularized that. And he's got run game bones. I don't know. That's my dream booking, as they would say in wrestling. But yeah, I think this is Nagy's job, and which is kind of just a bum 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 bum. But Matt, it was very fun going over this. The 17 coaching candidates for the Titans. I feel like we talked about every single one of them. It better not be Jason Garrett, because that also was like, what are you doing? Antonio Pierce and Jason Garrett. Oh, Jesus. Well, deservedly a 5. You should have given him a 0 or like a 10. I guess you're going 1 to 5.
I was gonna say, I thought about giving him a 20. I did think about that, but then it would have messed up the color form, the conditional formatting, which, I mean, that was... Nah, we can't do that. But yeah, hey, well, if they hire Jason Garrett, then NBC's got an open spot for Mike Tomlin to take on TV. So, maybe all things come full circle here.
Who's gonna call Notre Dame games? But no, that's the it's him in one of the Collinsworths, right? No, but we're closing it out today. Matt, 3 days in a row. This was a blast. Thank you for talking about some of the bad teams. This is an appealing part of doing our job. I actually think this is a lot of fun because we have a lot of playoff chatter and good team chatter. But hanging out in the doldrums can be a lot of fun. Or teams just firing old head coaches after 2 decades. But I'll be back on Thursday with CMAC to preview the divisional round. I'm Nate Tice. You can find me at Nate_Tice. That is Matt Harmon. You can find him at Matt Harmon_BYB. What else you got this week, Matt? What else you working on? I know you talked about the article, but anything else going on this week? We don't have 4, 5, 6 shows in a row anymore. So, but anything else that you got going on this week?
We don't have any more shows together this week, Nate, till the Sunday recap. I believe I'm doing that again this week, but I do have the fantasy show. We do have the fantasy show tomorrow with Justin Boone, where we're doing dynasty debates, so people can send those into our mailbag there. We're also doing reviewing what we got right and wrong. Which the fun part about that is I suggested, and we're doing receivers this upcoming episode, which I suggested, hey, producers, like find old clips from the show and play those back. There's nothing. The only thing more annoying than hearing the sound of your own voice is hearing the sound of your own voice getting something so horribly and disgustingly wrong. So if you're into cringe comedy, check out the show tomorrow.
And congrats to Justin Boone, by the way, the number one. Was it predictor on Fantasy Pros?
Ranker. So again, his weekly rankings are the most accurate in the industry according to Fantasy Pros. So yeah, it was awesome to get that. That was speaking. We broke some news live on this show. I was able to break that news live during the broadcast last week. So awesome for Boone. Yeah.
You're multifaceted, Matt Harmon. You've got spreadsheets. You do pods, 2-hour pods with me because I just can't shut up. You know, I appreciate you, man. So no, thank you for joining me. Check that out with Booney. He's great as well. And then Dynasty shows. That's my squeeze now with fantasy. Like Dynasty is how I get that scratches my itch. Even though I won my redraft leagues this year, Dynasty is that's for me all the way. It's if you got a league that you don't need, you have an orphan team or anything, let me know. NateTiceFootball@gmail.com. But anyways, yeah, you too. Actually, no, seriously, I'm addicted to them. But subscribe to us, follow us, rate us 5 stars here wherever you get your podcast. Watch us on YouTube on the Yahoo Sports YouTube channel. Make sure to check out the Yahoo NBA channel as well. Like, subscribe, this video, all of our good stuff that we have on there. Thanks to Stone, Awesome Mass, and Behind the Scenes for making us look and sound good. See you guys on Thursday. Thank you all for listening.